Welcome back. We're going to jump into, segment three, where we're talking about unemployment. And if we go back and think about, the economist, the macroeconomist viewpoint and their approach to things, you're going to get some macroeconomist that thinks the unemployment rate overstates unemployment, and then you've got some that will argue, well, it understates unemployment. It produces the picture of the unemployment rate gives a rosy picture of unemployment, and it doesn't really jump in, and as it understates it, and it doesn't jump in and really tackle the severity of what the true unemployment rate is. And I'm not sure we ever know what the true unemployment rate is. We have a best guess at unemployment rate, but again, that's as good as it can get in our particular environment. And what really is the issue with unemployment is it doesn't allow a society, and it dampens the welfare of that society, because it doesn't allow the society to function on that production possibilities curve. Remember, function on that production possibilities curve, you've got to have all of your factors of production fully employed, and you have to be functioning and processing and producing in a very efficient manner. And if you're unemployed, and if for some reason the unemployment rate understates the true unemployment rate, it's going to pull things back inside the production possibilities curve, and it's not going to have the economy in the United States or any other country functioning at full capacity. So you're not going to be out there on that production possibilities curve and being functioned, at a comparative advantage. So that is really one of the issues is with just the measurement of unemployment. So if we talk about issues with unemployment, first thing, part-time employment, if you're a part-time employee, you're considered employed. So if you are a part-time employee, you fall under the E factor in the denominator of that unemployment rate. Remember, the unemployment rate is the unemployment number, that second question in the survey, divided by the first question in the survey. If you answered yes, that you're employed, plus the unemployment rate. So it's the unemployment rate over the labor force. And so what happens is your part-time employees are considered employed. The society as a whole does not take advantage of a full 40-hour work week or the full potential of that employee. It doesn't allow that economy to be functioning there on that production possibilities curve. And so we're not attaining our full employment. We're not producing at a level where we could produce. So it moves us inside the production possibilities curve. And it's because we have a factor of our production, or one of our production factors is not fully employed. Now, if you stop and think about it, how do you correct that? Because you have some individuals. So I've lost my job, been laid off, been fired, been, for whatever reason, lost my job, and I'm having trouble, as again, we talked about matching my skill set with an available job, and I'm having trouble finding that job, and I've got bills to pay. I've got a family to support. My wife is just, forced. She's been, a homemaker and enjoys, homeschooling the kids and things like that. And now all of a sudden she's been forced to go back to work. I'm struggling. We're both struggling, trying to put food on the table and buy clothing and send, pay for educational needs for our kids. And all of a sudden I'm forced, or I force myself, or I'm forced, depends on how you look at it, to take part-time employment just to pay the bills. So I take part-time employment just to pay the bills. And so I'm included in the employment rate. I've gone from unemployed to employed, but I'm not employed at, a full 40-hour work week. And so you compare my situation to an individual that, for whatever reason, maybe voluntarily left work because you only want to work part-time. they don't want to work a full 40-hour week. Maybe they want to work 10 hours a week, or 15 or 20 hours a week, whatever that number is. And they do that because it's not so much they have bills to pay, it's just they don't want to work any more than that. They want to spend some time doing the things that to them more clearly or more readily optimizes their utility, their satisfaction. And so they just decide that they don't want to work full-time, they're only going to work part-time. So whatever the rationale is, it's still going to make that denominator larger, and it's going to make the unemployment calculation, make that rate smaller. And then the second feature is it doesn't account for underemployment. So I think the example they gave in the textbook, it was an underwater welder and lost his job, issues with downturn in the shipping economy, and he lost his job, and he takes a job doing some kind of, maybe it wasn't digging ditches, it was maybe operating a piece of machinery, but he is not functioning at his quote full employment because he has taken a job that does not readily utilize his specialized skill set. And again, it's a detriment to the welfare of society because he is not fully employed. And so we're working and we're producing inside that area, inside the production possibilities curve. So he may be fully employed and he may be paying bills, but he's not using his specialized skill set. And that, you perform work in areas where you're overqualified. You train for one occupation that's more valued by society, but you aren't be able to find that particular job that's going to allow you to move back into a specialized environment that's going to fully take advantage of your specialized skill set. Then the next one, number 3, is it says, doesn't include the discouraged workers. Discouraged workers, it can be just a lot of issues with can't match up, get tired of trying to find that job, get tired of filling out applications, get tired of interviewing. They just can't find that job that matches their skills with a job that they would be happy working with, or maybe at a pay scale that they're not working with. And so they just become disenfranchised. They become discouraged and they say, just the heck with it. I'm going to go, on some kind of welfare or some kind of, subsidized payment. And I'm going to sit home and, watch TV, watch, I don't know what you watch during the day on TV, but I'm sure there's a lot of shows on during the day that they can watch, and they're just going to sit home and watch TV. You run into a lot of that with college students. You run into a lot of that with the elderly. They're actually wanting to work and they're wanting to be employed, but they just can't make that match for whatever reason. They just can't make the match. Maybe the elderly are told that they're too old and, they can't be as productive as a younger individual in a particular job. And you've got college students where they've been trained for a certain skill set. They have a degree in an area that, for whatever reason, is not booming in the economy right now. And that could be, they received bad advice coming out of high school by, the high school counselor, and they went into a track at the university that's just not going to generate the revenue, not going to generate the satisfaction that they thought it would, simply because it's not as valued by the economy at this particular point in time than it may have been, 4 or 5 years ago when they graduated high school and started their college experiment. So you have that group that's, discouraged. And then again, it goes back to the underground economy. And you hear people talk about this underground economy is just, it continues to swell. You've got individuals coming in from the southern border. You've got, individuals coming in on the West Coast. So southern border, the West Coast. You've got people coming across the border from Canada. They may not want to have to pay taxes. Again, they may be avoiding taxes. Some of it is nefarious. Again, talked about, drug dealers, prostitution, gambling, child pornography, kind of the sweatshops where they've got a lot of underage kids generating produce or products to be sold on the market. So this is this underground economy, and it's the same thing that just as I talked about earlier. Individuals taking care of your pool, doing lawn work, clean your house, mowing the grass, just day laborers that you hire to do kind of handyman type stuff. So you don't know how many of those individuals are actually paying taxes. You don't know how many of them are actually, when the Bureau of Labor and Statistics sends out their surveyors or the surveyors start making calls, you don't know how they're answering those questions. Are they raising their hand and saying, yeah, I'm employed? Or are they saying, no, I'm not employed? And then you get to the second question, said, no, I haven't, I'm not willing and able to work. And I haven't really been looking for a job in the last 4 weeks. And then all of a sudden they keep falling down through the filters, and they end up in that kind of underemployed. They are just not employed, have no desire to go to work, when at the same time they're actually generating a fairly decent income. The first time I worked in DC, 1989, I guess it was, there was an expose in the Washington, I guess it was the Washington Post at that time, talking about the number of dollars being generated by individuals panhandling on the streets of DC, begging for money. And you would have individuals, like most people are working in downtown DC, traffic is such a nightmare that you didn't want to drive into downtown DC. And you would have these individuals in the metro stops or the metro stations, especially at the bottom of the escalators, right as you're going out on the street. They're standing there singing and dancing, they're playing musical instruments, or they're just panhandling, just begging for money. And they started making estimates that kind of underground activity in DC was generating, $40,000, $50,000 a year in income. And in 1989, that's a lot of money. And not only was a lot of money, but they were estimating that none of them ever paid taxes. Yes, and most of them didn't even have a bank account because they were making money in cash. It was people, throwing dollar bills, throwing, change, throwing spare change into their head at the bottom of the escalator. So they didn't have to worry about a bank account. They didn't have a check to cash. So it was this underground economy that is setting out there that is generating a lot of impact, and what's it, what the effect of that's going to be. And the underground economy, again, individuals are, clamoring now that it's going to continue to swell. And as it continues to swell, how are policymakers going to get their arms around that and actually change the way that Bureau of Labor and Statistics calculates the unemployment rate? They have tried to, with alternative opportunities or alternative methodologies, and they think the overemployed versus the underemployed, and it's a judgment decision versus definitive answers. So if you've got the objective decisions, so you've got individuals, the surveys, and objective is, yes, I'm employed. No, I'm not, but I'm willing to work. And I've actually been, over the last 4 weeks, I've been trying to find work. Or the third issue is, no, I'm not in the labor force. I don't want to work, don't have to work, don't care where I work. And so to ask a surveyor to go out and determine, those individuals that, just are not working, why is it? Are they, discouraged? Is it, they're financially well off? Are they providing valuable information? Are they actually working and generating a revenue and generating income and just not raising their hand when asked if they're employed? So again, that kind of puts our issues around the problems of measuring the unemployment rate. Again, it's not a perfect rate, and it's the best we can do. And it's unfortunately, it's the best that the policymakers have at this point in time. So I think the Bureau of Labor and Statistics are going to be forced at some time to try to make some adjustments. What those adjustments are we'll just have to wait and see what it's going to look like going forward. But I guess the thing that really kind of muddies the water when it comes to calculating the unemployment rate is the impact of COVID. So, COVID started eking into the economy in 2019. It was full blown in 2020. People stopped working. Companies downsized. There were stimulus payments went out to them. People decided, hey, I'd just rather stay home and take my stimulus payments and not work. So I think COVID has had a huge impact on the unemployment rate and the ability to keep the economy humming along. And as not only are worried about unemployment, but they're also worrying about inflation, and policymakers are worrying about the economy, and can they keep pushing that production possibility curve out and keep that economy growing. So a lot of issues that policymakers are going to have to deal with. I'm not sure I'd want to have to deal with them, but that's why they go into politics. That's their job. That's what they get paid for. So as a member of society, and I want my well-being to be optimized so that I can maximize my utilities, I want the policymakers to step in and do their job and ensure that all of these factors are controlled and taken care of. So that's going to kind of wind it up for the third segment, and we'll jump into the fourth segment in a few minutes. Talk to you soon.